The new age sector will come, and especially clean energy is one of the hot sectors in the coming times because the government has talked a lot about clean energy. There is a target of 500 gigawatts by 2030, and almost 400 gigawatts had already been achieved by 2022. So there's a lot of excitement visible in that space.
Hello everyone and welcome to Market Pillas Uncovered. I am Avan Dubash. This is a series where we introduce you to those people who are shaping India's financial future. Joining us today for a meaningful discussion is Mr. Viral Bhatt, who is the founder of Money Mantra, a name that is considered a pioneer in client-first financial advisory. In fact, Mr. Bhatt has made Money Mantra a trusted platform that manages multi-crore AUM and serves a large client base as well. Today, we will be talking about his outlook on the markets, India's outlook in the long term, and interesting sectors. Thank you so much for joining in. In your view, how will India and the financial ecosystem evolve over the next 5 years? And what is the outlook, first of all?
First of all, thank you, and thank you for having me. It's a very interesting point where we are standing right now. I think the 3 Ds are most important: demographics, domestic consumption, and digital infrastructure. If you look at all 3 one by one, demographics and our younger population, and looking at the next 5 to 10 years, it is definitely more promising in terms of comparison than we've had before. So to reach China overall, the China sector, the China country, it is still very far, but I still feel, given the way India's demographics and digital infrastructure have developed and will continue to develop in the coming times, so looking at all these 3 Ds put together, it's very promising for the country.
Like for India, absolutely everything is going well for us. So as you can see, everything is looking exciting. Now, among these Ds, which sectors are looking exciting and what are the reasons?
So when you look at the world in terms of sectors, digital infrastructure, demographics, as we discussed, looking at that, new names are emerging. New age sectors are coming up, especially renewable energy is one of them. I think it's a hot sector because the government has talked a lot about clean energy. There's a target of 500 gigawatts, an ambitious target set for 2030, and almost 400 gigawatts had already been achieved by 2022. So there's a lot of excitement in that space. Electric mobility is one of the sectors where a lot of work is being done in the infrastructure space. Establishing the end of battery in the infrastructure space, giving maximum push to electric vehicles, reducing battery costs, and other things. R1616 not out. It is a part of renewable energy, but solar hydropower and all these things are not just actually big words. How to get maximum support for it, get subsidies, and for all these things, more and more companies should put forward to implement all these things into the country in those sectors.
You talked about renewable energy, which is all the rage now, but are there any other sectors that perhaps are new or have not yet been discovered that you would like to talk about?
I wouldn't say that nothing has been discovered yet. I think actually in fintech, what has happened so far is just the beginning. In the coming years, there is so much more to come, especially if you connect fintech with capital markets, because even today, we always talk about how a large part of the population is still not covered. Participation in the investment space and capital markets is still lacking. The numbers are coming in, but compared to other countries that have developed over the years, if you look at their scenario and compare it to ours, there is still much more to cover, right? So as far as fintech is concerned, I feel that it still hasn't been explored or penetrated into the market as much as it should have. But in the coming years, with this digital push, I see bright chances for that to happen.
Okay, so that's about financial services. What about the financial advisory ecosystem? Could you give just an overview, especially for investors?
So I've been in the industry for almost 18 years now, and if you look at it on a year-by-year basis, the space has evolved a lot. Special thanks to SEBI. While the regulatory framework may seem very strict from an advisor's point of view, it's actually a necessity if you look at it from the perspective of a country's financial ecosystem. The goal is to get more and more people connected to the capital markets, to increase investments, and to attract more foreign money. There are various efforts to build the necessary infrastructure for this. Just to give you an example, Gift City is trying to create such an ecosystem where more and more NRIs and foreign investors can invest easily. So if I go back 10 or 15 years, there wasn't as much of a push and not as many people were talking about it. But with various regulations, product innovations, and the advent of digital infrastructure, the advisory and capital market space has evolved significantly. In the coming times, the focus will be on further simplification to connect more and more people, because see, there are two types of segments. One segment that already knows and understands. This group has definitely evolved, but the second segment is still somewhat doubtful, unsure about how right or beneficial it will be for them to invest in different products. Traditional investments still, in some ways, some people still have it in their minds that they only want to make traditional investments and don't want to explore other types of investments that they don't know about or don't understand. So definitely the space has taken shape and evolved. If you look at the number of demat accounts, those have increased significantly. Awareness about insurance has also grown considerably. Mutual funds. If we look at it, just to give you something relatable, before COVID, around 1 to 2% of the population used to invest. And today, post-COVID, if you talk about 2025, that number has almost reached around 5 to 6%. So there has been quite a jump in the last 5 years. And definitely with different initiatives, regulations, and increased transparency, there is certainly hope that this will continue to grow in the coming 5 to 10 years.
Viral, you mentioned the financial advisory ecosystem, but let's just deep dive into how investors can avail these services. Could you explain a bit about what the benefits are?
See, as we discussed earlier, the government has done a lot of work in digital infrastructure. There, more and more people are connecting online, and there are many platforms for this. On these platforms, people can come and review their investments and understand their investments better. What is its integrity and what are its important aspects? And there are many such regulations that our regulators have implemented and will continue to implement in the coming years from the point of view of investors' benefit, such as when it comes to expenses, how costs can be reduced so that investors get the maximum direct benefit from the money they are investing. There are also almost 47 asset management companies, but I was reading an article that said that almost 100 asset managers have an appetite for this. So in India, there will be product innovation, product simplification, cost benefits, and more advisors will join the ecosystem. Because when you look at the growth of a particular sector, so as of today, when we think about it, the number of advisors compared to the population is very low. So if all these steps are taken by the government and things evolve in the coming years, more and more advisors will come in. And at the same time, more and more investors will also join in.
Okay, that's very encouraging. Let's rewind a bit more. Let's talk about your journey. Your journey in the financial markets from when you started to double and up to the foundation of Money Mantra is quite inspiring. So just list your important milestones up to today and share them.
Basically, being Gujarati, I've always been involved in the capital market. When I was doing my graduation, I told my dad that we should consider and look into this particular investment option. But as a salaried person and someone from a middle-class background, there's always a bit of fear, especially around 2005 to 2006. At that time, the markets didn't inspire much confidence. No one knew what would happen or how things would turn out. Previously, we've heard about scams. A lot of things have happened, and we've seen market crashes. So in that situation, I was doing my graduation. At that time, I convinced my dad to let me step into the capital markets, and that's when I opened my demat account. I already had an inclination towards it. Being Gujarati, if you want to make money, you definitely have to enter the capital market, and by investing wisely, figure out how to capitalize on it and benefit from it in the coming years. So as I said, I had an inclination towards the capital market, but in those particular years when I graduated, I approached one of the institutes to do my financial planning, to understand how financial planning can be done in a structured and disciplined way, and from the point of view of explaining to people how investment works, how it should be done, and what important factors are involved. So I completed my certified financial planning. And then definitely from an experience point of view, I worked in different jobs in my career, in various private sectors, in different companies. And then I realized that even now, there is still a lot of mis-selling happening in the ecosystem. People are not looking at things in a structured, one-line way. Instead, they are chasing higher and higher returns rather than focusing on their financial goals. So in 2014, I started the Money Mantra venture, and over the last 11 years, I have tried to guide people with a client-first approach, focusing more and more on education and information and doing things the right way in the current way.
Absolutely, and a very inspiring journey. Are there any important market lessons you'd like to share?
So you see, when we talk about the concept of investment, people often find it to be very, very boring. And from an educational point of view, it actually should in fact be quite boring.
But boring hona chahiye.
Absolutely, it should be boring. But what happens is that because it's boring, people's interest tends to take a back seat. We try to bring them to the front foot to get them as interested as possible. That's what we strive for. That's what we try to do. So I use a few different relatable examples, case studies, and past experiences. When I have conversations with my clients, I share what my experience has been, how they should think about things, because see, money at the end of the day is also a behavioral thing. Unless you change your behavior, unless you look at it with a positive outlook, nothing will change. And as I said, the return framework, returns are always on people's minds, and definitely it's an important aspect. But rather than just focusing on that, if you think about their concerns, their financial goals, their financial milestones, and connect those to their investments, only then will their financial journey be complete. And the second thing is the lack of patience. People are very impatient. They think about quick money, about how their money can double, how fast it can happen, instead of spending time on that particular journey with as much patience and focus as possible. Our advice is, in the financial journey, because it has often been observed, Van, that people end up with too much debt. People often invest in insurance thinking of it as an investment. So the basic fundamental, the framework is lacking there. So how can more and more of the retail audience, the retail class, get involved? How can they understand in such a way that by understanding its importance, they can ensure that in the coming years, be it 5 years, 10 years, or even 20 years, their goals are met? People should think about and look at these important aspects, and that's exactly what we're working on, to get more and more people involved, to help more and more people understand. And as for financial goals, many people tell me, Avan, that they don't have any financial goals, but that's not true. That's never the case. One part of it is retirement. If you think from today's lifestyle point of view, retirement planning is something that people don't even consider. The mindset is, let me earn money today and spend it today. Why should I think about the next 20 or 30 years right now? Now, thinking this way isn't completely wrong. Definitely, we have to consider all aspects of our financial life. But the missing part, the lacking part in financial planning is retirement planning. And that's a very big gap that we try to address, to bridge it with a structured framework.
Apart from finance, tell us about yourself, any hobbies or passions you enjoy, or...
As for me, I'm a bit of a boring person in all those aspects, but definitely being Indian, I am a cricket lover. Whenever I get the time, playing cricket with friends, watching cricket together, how can it be said that it is my hobby, but otherwise it is not that boring for me?
Din raat.
Yeah, markets din raat. So this market is there day and night. So you can see like the capital markets, drink capital markets morning and evening. Capital markets are always in my mind, and at the most, instead of taking it as a boring subject, how to make it an exciting subject that can now be called my hobby.
Thank you so much for joining in. It was so interesting to learn about your journey, and you've also given a lot of advice to investors.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So that's all for today's episode of Market Pillars Uncovered. Don't forget to subscribe to Money TV. Thank you for watching.